Welcome, everyone, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a great episode up for you tonight. Rob Gutro's back with us, paranormal investigator, psychic medium, and he's going to tell you all about the haunted Belmont Manor and all of its interesting historic ghost stories. Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole, everyone. I'm Mike Ricksecker, author and ghost historian. With me, as always, is Vanessa Hogel, my co-hostess, and down in the chat room is Shauna, our chat shenanigator, shaking everything's up down there. And we have a great treat up for you tonight. Rob Gutro is back in the house, and he's been on a number of times. It talks about a lot of different things, a lot of different subjects. Tonight he's going to get kind of specific and share with us about the haunted Belmont Manor. I've been there a couple of different times, have investigated there. It's a great historic haunted location. Rob has done a lot of investigations out of there now. He's held a number of events there. He's also, if you're unfamiliar with him, he's a psychic medium and an author and a meteorologist, which would be great right now because we have storms going on around the studio right now, heavy rain. We've already lost power twice. Hopefully we'll stay on. So Rob, welcome back.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks for having me back.
You're very welcome.
Did you notice that I wore my Edge of the Rabbit Hole t-shirt tonight?
Yeah, you have your Edge of the Rabbit Hole t-shirt, and I'm wearing Edgar Allan Poe because you're going to be talking about a site in Maryland, which is awesome. And Shauna down in the chat room wants to let you know that she says, hello, I love him, and he needs to change his mind about the Paracon.
Well, I'll be on vacation.
Right.
I can't hate on you for that.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all good.
Right.
It's all good.
Yeah.
We love you. We love you.
You need time.
I do. So there are a lot of things going on at the Belmont, and I also have a couple of hauntings I can tell you about too that I encountered in New Jersey when I went up to Princeton. They're not anywhere in print, and nobody's ever heard about them because they just happened to me last month.
All right, we can definitely do that. Let's go ahead and start with Belmont, though. Let me get the one photo that I was able to actually get. Shauna was trying to help me hunt down some photos earlier because I was actually working until just a few minutes ago, so I couldn't get everything. She at least found this one, which is...
That window right there.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's going on at Belmont, Rob, for the viewers who are not familiar with this location?
So the property was built in the 1760s by the Dorsey family, and they were big, a big family here in Maryland. They owned a lot of property, Caleb and Priscilla Dorsey, and it stayed with the family for quite a long time. And after they passed and their children either passed or moved on, the Belmont changed hands quite a number of times. So ultimately, it wound up in the Howard County Parks and Recreation Department, and they're taking care of it now, and they're treating it as an historic property. But the American Chemical Society owned it for a while. It was a conference center, and even one of the universities, local universities, owned it for a while too. So it's been in a number of families, and a number of organizations have had it. What's interesting that I found out when I walked through there, only because myself and another medium on Inspired Ghost Tracking, Troy, sensed a military man who still resides there. We found out that the Iraq War, the first one under George Bush, was planned there in secret.
Wow.
Yeah, and the one wing of the... And that was a photo that I was going to show, too. Like, hey, this is where it happened. So, yeah.
What's on the right-hand side of the house?
Right, the right-hand side of the house, right.
On the far side of the house from that picture that you showed. So, so we can start there if you wish.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So let me preface it by saying that the Inspired Ghost Tracking Group of Maryland has an agreement with the Belmont there and the Parks Department, and we give lectures probably once a month or once every couple months. I do a lot of lectures based on my books, actually. And we have a public investigation. So we basically take different groups of people and we walk them through the Belmont for about 3 hours, and we tell them what happened in what room. And some of the people who are sensitive have reported a lot of the same sensations that myself and the other mediums in the group have actually experienced in the same rooms. So um, we can go kind of room by room because certain ghosts have decided to stay in certain rooms for various reasons.
Sure. Go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to take you on a
virtual tour without the photos I was hoping to have, but that's all right. You just imagine it in your mind.
Okay. So we talked about the Iraq War being planned there. Well, down a long hallway on the right-hand side of the building, if you're looking at it face forward, there is a man who is apparently a general that was involved with planning from the Pentagon. We don't know his name because he is a really gruff and grumpy personality. In fact, many people who are on the tour often experience chest pain, and they experience lightheadedness, and they get breathless when they walk in this particular room. So that's happened many, many times, actually on every single tour that we've taken people into this particular room. So people don't want to stay in that room very long at all, and I don't blame them because I feel the same way physically. It gives me the same physical sensations. So we've come to learn that he died, of course, and he came back, and he decided to stay in that room or in the Belmont because he regrets being part of that whole thing. He regrets being part of that planning of that war because he said it wasn't the right thing to do. So he doesn't feel like he can cross over.
Okay.
So instead, he just makes everybody miserable that goes in that room. What can I say?
Way to drag everybody else down, yeah. If I'm going to be miserable, everybody else is too, right?
Right. Well, as I've said before, we all maintain our personalities when we pass.
Right.
If we're kind of gruff and grumpy when we're alive, we're going to be the same way when we're dead, and he certainly held on to that. But that doesn't mean that everybody in the Belmont that haunts the Belmont is a bad entity. There are a couple that are pretty benign. There are two little girls running around in the Belmont as earthbound ghosts. And there are several men, and there is a woman that walks around, an older woman. She's called a white-haired woman. I've only run into her once. Several people that work there have reported that the white-haired woman has been seen in what's known as the banqueting area or the kitchen area, and they've seen olives actually be thrown across the room when they're setting up for like an English tea or a buffet or some kind of reception. They've seen plates move, they've seen silverware move, and they've caught an occasional glance of this woman. So we've been investigating there since it reopened in, I think it was 2014.
Yeah, somewhere right around there. Yeah.
5 years. So we've been investigating since that opening day, and nobody in our team has ever run into this woman. Well, long story short, we were on the second floor, and myself and another investigator, Rhonda, who walks around with me with equipment. We walked into a room with a public group, and both Rhonda and I looked at each other, and we sensed that there was a woman in a room that's typically empty. It's typically vacant. So all the people crowded in behind us, and we sensed that this female ghost stayed put. So Rhonda's her favorite paranormal piece of equipment is a little glowing cat ball that it's a motion sensitive cat ball. Have you ever used that?
Yeah.
Okay. So So she pulled that out and she threw it on the bed, and we started asking questions. Now it it lit up when we asked if it was a woman. We asked if it was a man. Of course, it didn't light up. We asked if it was a woman again. It lit up, and nobody was touching the bed or anything. So we would ask the same question probably about 4 or 5 times, and in between other questions, and we would still get the same answer. So I said to her, "You are the white-haired woman that dwells usually in the dining area. Is that correct?" And it lit up. And I looked at Rhonda and I said, "You know what? She really hates people." And so Rhonda, of course, asked if she hates people, and the thing lit up, and it stayed lit up.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So then we asked her if she would like us to go, and it lit up again. So we said, "Okay, we'll leave you to we'll leave you to yourself." So we all filed out of the room, and then when we came back later, there was no sense that anybody was in that room anymore.
Cool. Couple of things here. We have a couple of super chats here. One from David Y. It says it's $5 super chat. It says, "Love what you guys do. Watching on the road, parked in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, with Ghosty and Abby." Very cool. Thank you, David.
Oh, that's nice.
And then Tom McNicholas, $10 super chat, says, "Welcome back, Rob, and woohoo to Vanessa for her video post." That's gonna be a rabbit pellet coming up here pretty soon. By the way.
Yeah.
By the way, I love the name of
that. Yeah. That's just like a little bit of the edge of the rabbit hole, but what do we call it? Like little extra something down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
A little poop on the paranormal.
That's right.
Paranormal poop scoop.
And Shauna did have a remark that she says she's never been to Belmont or heard of any of its stories from, I guess, me or Rob. But I just caught a snippet vision of a little girl. There are supposed to be, I guess there's the one that's in the parlor and then the one that has been seen in the upstairs bedroom by somebody who is restoring the house, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, as a matter of fact. So we'll take you back upstairs, if you will.
All right, upstairs. Imagine walking up the stairs. There we go.
Imagine walking up the stairs.
Yeah, actually, just to let everybody know, after this, what you can do, and after Inside the Upside Down, I do have a video on this channel from some years ago of investigating the Belmont Manor, so you can get like a walkthrough and some investigation footage of that, so you can actually see the inside and everything. But after this, of course, keep watching Rob. He's got some great stories.
It's really beautiful in there too. So they use it for so now they use it for conferences, and they use it for parties and birthday parties and bar mitzvahs and conferences and anything. And they have an English tea there that's actually really good with some great desserts. So I've treated myself to that. I'm never one to pass up chocolate.
Right, exactly.
So it's really a fascinating place because there's so much history. There's over 200 years of history in the Belmont, and it's operated by the Howard County Parks and Recreation Department. And people who are interested in going there and getting a tour through the Inspired Ghost Tracking need to go through the Howard County Parks and Recreation Department, and you can call the Belmont too directly, and they can put you in touch. But we do paranormal tours once every 6 months.
Okay.
Because they're like 3 hours long, and they're on a Friday night. And after working 8 hours, well, Mike, you work like 12 hours, but so you're used to it.
Yeah.
But it's a little tiring.
Right. I gotcha.
So let's take you back upstairs. There's one particular room that a lot of docents have reported, and it's if you're looking at the Belmont, that's the front of the Belmont that you were looking at right there. It's on the right hand side. It's in the main building. So if you look at this picture here, on the far left to the edge of the picture, that's the left side. There is a ballroom down on the bottom, and then there are a couple of suites on the top. And then that room is kind of a hallway that connects to the main building. Well, in the main building, upstairs, in the back, there are 2 rooms, and there are 2 rooms in the front. I'm sorry, 3 rooms. in the front and 3 in the back. There's three dormers there, so each room has a dormer window. So in the back, there was a painter who was there, and he was doing finishing touches before the Belmont reopened, and he looked down and he saw a little girl. Now the thing is that there was nobody else in the entire Belmont, and the doors were locked, and he was the only one working on it. So he was quite scared. And from what the docents told me, he didn't finish his painting job. He just left. He did not know where that little girl came from.
Right.
It turns out that we went into one of the rooms on the far left-hand side of the house, and we learned that a little girl had passed away in that room, and she revealed to me that her name is Amanda, and she was 6 years old when she died, and she died of the flu.
Yeah.
As people would, especially children, are more susceptible to dying of the flu, especially in the 1800s. So she runs through the Belmont. She runs up and down the corridors. And she doesn't seem to mind that she's there. And she's been seen in that room often, the one where the painter saw her. But she's most often seen in the far room in the back bedroom. And we were there with the paranormal. We were there with a group in the paranormal tour, and we were doing the question and answer thing with little Amanda. And people would, of course, throw out questions asking different ages, and Rhonda's little cat ball or flashlight, whatever she was using, would not light up when they asked different ages. Somebody asked 14, somebody asked 11, somebody said 8. When they said 6, it lit up. So we kept getting the same exact answers. They asked about her name. They gave different names. It never lit up until they asked her if her name was Amanda. So some of the things I've learned about Amanda is that she was related to somebody in the home, and she used to love to hear piano. And she told me that it was downstairs. Well, apparently, I found out from the docents that there used to be a baby grand piano in that room downstairs on the first floor and to the far left.
Oh, okay.
And they had a piano in there for like 100 years. Amanda told me
that's a long time to have a piano.
That's a long time. That was probably one dusty piano.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. But that was another insight into her personality. And one time when we had a paranormal group in that particular room, we bid her goodbye, and suddenly, big screen TV that's on the wall went on by itself. Now, of course, Rhonda and I looked around and were like, somebody touched the remote. There was no remote. Turned out the remote was in a drawer underneath, that was in a bureau that was underneath the television, and nobody was even standing next to it. So we got the sense that little Amanda was not done playing with us. She wanted to talk to us a little bit more. So she's a really friendly little ghost that lives there. It's tragic though, because she's still here, and
right.
She should be, crossed over with her family.
Yeah, it's always a shame when the little ones are still around.
Yeah. The thing that bothers me sometimes about these locations that have a number of ghosts in them is that we're not really allowed to cross them over, because they're, it's kind of adds to the charm, I guess, of the house.
Yeah, but that has happened there before. It
has.
Because I was there when Troy did that with the drifter upstairs in the Dorsey room.
The drifter, right? Mm-hmm. And since you were there, I would like to stop talking and let you tell.
Let me talk a little bit. Yeah, I mean it was interesting because it was a very active room. People would get a lot of different hits. They'd see shadows and or light anomalies in there. I got a lot of interesting activity off of some of the different meters and that sort of thing. When Troy decided that he was going to cross him over, the energy in the room that night had really gotten electrified. You could really just feel it in the air, especially when you walk into the room, the wall off on the left, on the other side of the bed, which is kind of where I was hanging out, and it was like, well, he's really over here. And
there's a bathroom on that wall.
There's a bathroom over there too, right? There's the doorway into the bathroom, but I was basically between the bed and the wall, and then the doorway to the bathroom. But he was kind of hanging out more toward that doorway with the bathroom, because when Troy decided that he was going to cross him over, we all got in a circle, and Troy and I were right next to each other, and it was from that area, from that doorway, where Troy kind of looked and said, come on into the circle. And you could feel something definitely pass right between us, as if somebody was walking between us into the middle of that circle. And so, then Troy basically did his thing, and I'm still to this day not sure how all that works, where you're supposed to imagine some white light and he goes to the light and all that sort of thing. But when that was done, you couldn't feel that energy anymore. That electrifying feeling within the room was gone.
Do you remember if there was a feeling of warmth, slight temperature change? Because that's something that we experience on IGT a lot, that whenever you cross somebody over.
The way I usually feel stuff like that is a static feeling, and so I was getting the static all over my arms.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Vanessa? What happens when you cross somebody over?
I actually have varying viewpoints on this.
Okay.
Yeah. It has been my experience, not claiming anybody else has this experience, but what I've dealt with since I was 2, so about 45 years, is that there isn't necessarily the need to leave this realm and go to another and stay. There appears to be a two-way street, because the ones that have spoken to me, and I mean, we're into the thousands now, have told me so. That even if some appear to seem like they're stuck, it's because they choose. They might have left and then they come back because that's where they feel comfortable. I think with Amanda, honestly, she likes the vivaciousness of the different people that are coming in. There are different people to grab their hands. There's different people to pull on their leg pants, their pant legs. There's different talking. There's incredibly odd phone rings that fascinate her. And there are all these different things that are very much entertainment for a perpetual 6-year-old.
Yeah, you've absolutely captured her personality.
Yeah, it's like a carnival. And even though it might not happen all the time, as we've talked about many, many times, time is irrelevant when you're deceased. So what might seem like 2 months in between occurrences of people going in there and giving her something to interact with, it could feel like 2 minutes to her. Like, oh, here comes the next new people, Real quick though, I'm gonna get off that. I have to ask you, who's the guy that smokes the pipe?
I believe that he was the gentleman who died in the front right-hand room. He was he was actually a merchant.
He had those chops too. He had the chops.
He did have chops.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that he was the one. He and Amanda are the 2 earthbounds that I was able to channel and get a lot of information. Much more so with this guy. This guy, as it turned out, he told me he was a merchant. He used to run barges on the Patapsco River, which was back in the day wide enough and deep enough to run a barge through. Now it's like a trickle. And he would bring wood from Western Maryland down here. So the owner of the Belmont Manor had asked him to bring wood because he was interested in building a barn. So this gentleman was here with his wood, and he was trying to sell it, and he suffered a massive heart attack. So they brought him up there to that particular room, and that's where he passed away. Now, what's fascinating is that normally I don't get first and last names, but he gave me his name. His full name was Andrew Lyons, and he told me the year. And somebody with an iPhone, when I was channeling him, looked it up. They were able to find and confirm who he was.
Nice.
And that he was a merchant.
Very nice.
You know what's funny is you said he had a barge.
Mm-hmm. He worked with barges.
When you're telling me this, and I have no idea if this is true. I don't know if there's any way to reconcile its validity, but he just kept telling me he hates fish. hates fish.
Great occupation if you hate fish.
I know, but it was weird because when he talks about his hands and how big they are, he says he wasn't really cut out for anything else.
Interesting insight.
I don't know what that means, if it even means anything. But yeah, he hates fish. So if they cook fish there, or if they have anyone that serves fish, he's not happy.
It's not his thing. All right.
Well, they do have banquets downstairs, so I'm sure he smells the scent of fish every now and then.
He doesn't like it.
That's good to know.
Gonna pass that on so they don't make fish.
I'm not going to go in there with a fish sandwich.
Right.
Thank you.
Set him off on the wrong foot. That's good intel. Thank you. So what's interesting too about that particular room that he dwells in, and he chose to dwell in the room where he passed. I just think that he stayed too long. I guess that's the sense that I get, that he stayed too long, and he's kind of, I call him the grumpy man, because he's angry that he died young. He's angry that he never get to finish his business transaction, and he's angry that he left his wife and his daughter. He had a young daughter behind. I've tried to tell him to just cross over, but he doesn't. He doesn't really know how, and I can't really give him instructions.
Well, that leads actually to a question that we have in the chat room from Brandy Starleaper. She asked, could a ghost ask for help to cross over?
Sure. I'm sure you've had more EVPs than anybody about ghosts asking for help, right?
Well, I have quite a few of them, sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I think they're looking for help for, is to cross over.
Okay.
What do you think, Vanessa? Do you think they want an oil change, or do you think they want...
What I have honestly found a lot of is most of them just want to talk. When they ask me for help, it's not that they need me to help them do anything. They just need to have somebody to converse with to ease them. And I honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why I have some of the less savory ones come to me, because a guilty conscience can follow you into the afterlife.
Right.
And there's plenty of times when I get somebody that's not good, wasn't a good person, never going to be a good person, but I'm just there to talk to them. I'm not there to judge them.
Yeah, but see, they also can sense your personality, that you are a mother and you have more patience than most people, and you're very kind-hearted. So that's probably why they come to you.
Yeah, I'll tell you the one time that I really got that helped me, EVP, and Vanessa, you remember this story, because it was the one time that I've really, it's happened a few times, but one of those times that I just really somehow connected with the spiritual realm, and I was being fed all kinds of information at the time. It was in the parlor of the Fairy Plantation, and they had in the room, it was set up as a wake, and the woman there, she did not like that. She did not like it being set up as a wake, because the room, while it had been used as a wake many times, of course they did that back in the day, and the building dated to the 1700s, that it wasn't always like that, they would use it for a lot of different things. And so, she wanted me to deliver a message to, to help her to get them to remove this setup as a wake.
She didn't like the reminder.
No, she didn't. She didn't like the reminder of death.
No.
Even though she was dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're looking at death as how we look at death.
Right.
Once we're there it's different.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they don't see it, in my opinion, in my experience, the same way.
Yeah, they probably have a different perspective. Yeah.
To have that constant reminder, that would be depressing.
Yeah, well, they really have nothing to worry about because they're already dead.
Word. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but the setup could remind them of different tragedies that happened within the house, and they might not want to remember those tragedies.
Sure. It's a mental torment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and there were things that happened at that house where, like, the little boy fell out the window to his death and things like that. So yeah, there was some tragedy there for sure. So different house though.
Yeah, the biggest tragedy, I think. I mean, there's a lot of tragedy, of course, at the Belmont too. But the biggest tragedy was the murder.
Yes, at the front door.
At the front door, yeah. So where those columns are and that small peaked roof that juts out in the front, that's where a murder happened. And if you look at that window on the far left side, that right there is where I saw a male ghost who was about in his 30s or early 40s, and he was dressed in riding gear. He had those white pants and high boots. And he had a jacket with a number of buttons on them, as if something that you would wear if you were riding a horse, perhaps. And every time I come in there, I see him. I actually visibly see him, and he's staring out the window. And I haven't been able to figure out, because he's non-responsive. He's not like Amanda. He doesn't want to talk. He just stares out the window. So I don't know if he was the victim or if he was the murderer to the man at the front door. Do you have any sense of that, Vanessa?
He can't hear. He can't hear. I think what I'm feeling is that he played a part in it, but wasn't one or the other. But he can't hear. So communication would be almost impossible.
Well, that would make sense. He can't hear.
Yeah, he can't hear. It's nothing. You could, if he was alive, you could walk up to him and scream behind him, and he wouldn't hear that. I about said tap him on the head, but you'd feel that. Oh my God. It's been a day, but he can't hear. So whether he was standing next to the person that did something, or whether there was an explosion by his ear, or whatever it was, which actually it's weird, because when I feel him, it is this weird loud sound, but I don't know when it happened, and it's like he was fine, and then there's nothing.
So maybe he was the victim. I mean, if you hear, the last thing you hear is a gunshot.
It's loud, but I mean, it's like here.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I guess I don't know what guns sounded like back then. I don't know. I know what they sound like now.
Yeah, I think they were louder.
Okay, that would be bad then. Yeah. But it's just everything was there, and then there's nothing. There's no sound.
Interesting. So we took a group picture in that particular room. That's the room that used to have the piano, Mike. And that's where the room that little Amanda used to like to go down and listen to the piano. And we took a group picture in that room, sitting on the couch, the Inspired Ghost Tracking team. And I believe that Troy sensed that man was standing behind all of us. He had moved from the window, and he walked over, and he was standing behind everybody when we were taking a group picture, which was kind of, upsetting.
Yeah.
But he didn't show up in the pictures. So
Maybe he just wanted to feel a part of something.
I
Maybe.
guess,
Maybe.
you're dead for 150 years. You have to do something other than stare out the window, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. True story. True story.
Hey, we have a couple more questions here from the chat room. So Rick Gabbard is wondering what would be some great research information that he can look up for this location. So how would he be able to do some historic research, and I guess maybe in paranormal research on this location from where he's at?
It's called the Belmont Manor and Historic Park, and that's all you have to do is plug that into Google, and you can get the entire history of the house from the Howard County Parks and Recreation Division. So they publish everything on there.
Okay. And Brandy is asking, does it make you feel like they're at peace because they asked to cross over rather than be angry at being forced while not ready to cross over?
Does it make me feel that they're at peace? I don't really think any ghost is actually at peace. Of course, I can only look at it from a human perspective,
Right.
from a living perspective. Like Vanessa said, time is not really relevant there. So from a human perspective, I would say I would be extremely impatient if I were hanging around 160 years. But they may not notice the difference. So what do you think, Vanessa?
I agree. I don't think they notice the difference. I think that something that seems like 5 years to us is 5 minutes to them, because time is something that we created.
Mm-hmm.
It's a human construct, for sure.
It's a human construct. So it isn't, and that's when I'm talking to people about when they're trying to contact their loved ones and are upset because they haven't heard from them in a while. I just keep reiterating that it's not the same. It's absolutely not the same. I don't know who this is who's asking. It's not on our page, but I do have to ask you this. It sounds like a guy, but he sounds like older than puberty, so in his 20s, but his voice is still a little bit high. And he's asking what happened to the other buildings that were behind the place and towards the left of the property.
Behind and towards the left.
Yeah.
I know
if
that
I'm looking at it right.
Directly behind is a cemetery.
Yeah.
There's a garden and a cemetery. I don't remember what's behind on the left. Behind on the right is buildings for property managers and people that lived on the property, and
there's at least one building that's not there anymore.
There's the park that's back there too. I'm trying to remember. I remember looking out that way on a starry night, which doesn't help.
It was. I just keep being told something about a workshop. That's what about a workshop.
There was a lot going on there with horses, Rob, at one point.
Yes, yeah. So there is a barn, and they actually bred horses there too.
Isn't that the one where the one horse was buried standing straight up?
He was.
Yeah.
He was. He died, and they dug a I don't know, probably 10-foot ditch, and they buried him standing up. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
A little bit.
Well, it was like out of respect, like you couldn't bear the thought of the horse laying down, so he buried him straight up. That's what I recall from the story.
Wow. Archaeologists will flip in about 100 years if they come across that. That is insane. Sorry. I'm okay.
Breathe.
It's starting again. Good gravy. All right.
It's all right. So
there we go.
Did we lose Rob?
No, I'm
okay.
here.
Right
You're just waiting for Vanessa to calm down. Okay.
I'm here. Yeah. So was that the entire question? Did we answer the entire question, Mike?
I think it was answered well enough for sure.
Okay.
The cemetery, you brought that up out of personal curiosity. I know that the first time that I went there were all those little red flags because they had done radar imaging for trying to find out where all the different unmarked graves were. But then when I returned there was only like a handful left, like people that perhaps were coming along on the path in the park were sneaking into the cemetery, maybe plucking them out. So I don't know if any of those would be replaced or if they're all gone now. That's just personal curiosity.
I haven't been back in the cemetery in years.
It's way back there.
Every time I go, it's to give lectures. It's at night,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to go back to the cemetery at night.
Gotcha. All right.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go. And there's 73 of them that aren't marked.
73 graves.
Yeah.
I would believe that. Yeah. What's interesting too about the cemetery is that Troy, the medium that you mentioned, Mike, before our first arrival at Belmont, he had described one specific tombstone that he was drawn to, and he kind of sketched it out, and then he brought it with him, and there was only one tombstone that looked like that in the entire cemetery.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Some of the other one of the other things that he experienced, and I experienced the same thing, is the very first time we were coming up there, that we both swore that we saw a horse and carriage ahead of us.
Oh, wow.
When we were driving up there, and it disappeared.
Wow.
And when we both got to the Belmont, that we got there at like different times, like 15 minutes apart or something like that. I brought it up to him, and I said, Troy, when I was driving up the long driveway, which is about a mile and a half, I told him about that horse and carriage, and he said that's pretty amazing because that's exactly what I saw.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it disappeared.
Yeah. This one is for Vanessa from Leslie Fear. Vanessa, when you talk about spirit and what they say, are you remote viewing them in their actions, or can you pick up their thoughts?
If she means like during the show,
Yeah.
I'm being told.
Okay.
So
any of that, when you start talking to the show, hey, I'm getting this, it's being told in your ear.
It's being told to me. I'm actually physically hearing it. Kind of like what happened with Mineral Springs when they told me the room and it was right.
Okay.
Same thing. You can actually see in the video. I look over because I can hear them talking. It's really annoying sometimes.
Right. So, Rob, there is that vault there at Belmont, which I always think is one of the coolest features of the house, is that vault.
The vault. And one of our investigators got stuck in it.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oops.
Greg, who is our tech guy, he was down there by himself, and he was investigating, and the door closed, and it locked. So ever since then, and he was only down there, I think, locked in there like 20 minutes or something before somebody found him. And then they had to find the key to get it open.
Wow.
So the Belmont now they make sure it's totally unlocked.
Right.
Yeah, I would have been done for. That's my worst fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd have peed.
So and I think, and they store like Christmas decorations and stuff in the vault too, because I really didn't want to go in there either, to be honest with you. They kept encouraging me to go in there and trying to communicate with someone, and I said, you know what, if they want to talk, they can come up.
Hey, on the second floor, far right of the place, does anybody ever mention hearing something scraping across the floor? Almost like somebody's dragging like a cane or something with them?
Not that I can put my finger on, but I'm sure that there has been dragging noises.
Yeah.
But
it's
so
like
many
wood
docents.
on wood. It's wood on wood.
There are so many docents have reported so many different things that I can't remember them all because I'm over 50.
Preach, honey, I'm almost there, okay?
We're waiting to hit the magic number.
It's up on the second floor all the way to the right.
So that would be where the general is,
Okay.
all the way down the end of that corridor. And
It
and
could be the scraping of chairs.
oh yeah, it could, yeah, very well. That would actually make sense
Okay.
in the planning of that particular room. Yep. That
I
would,
know you said that no one likes to stay in there.
Mhm.
And I understand why, because nobody wants to feel that way.
No.
But he wants to talk.
okay. Well, he needs to stop making everybody feel physically ill.
I don't think he means to.
Probably not. He does. I do sense his demeanor is a very gruff person.
Mhm.
And that certainly fits with the military, being a general and so forth.
Mhm.
But every time I walked in there, I felt like I'm in the presence of a bully, and it's hard to want to help a bully
True.
to me. So,
Where is this place again? What state?
Maryland.
Maryland.
Maryland. I want to come.
Okay,
Will you go with me? If I
sure.
can make it up
I'll
there.
give you a private tour if I
Okay.
can.
Okay.
If they'll let me.
And if they'll let you, if I can make it there after I get back from Ireland, if I can make it there, just put me in that room and shut the door.
Okay, I don't think you'd want to do that, but okay. You're very brave.
I used to work. I did my training for dentistry at Tinker Air Force Base. I've worked on generals, lieutenant colonels, colonels.
Oh, okay.
I know how they talk. I know how they think.
So you worked in dentistry there?
I'm a dental assistant. I work in pediatrics now, and
So-
I've been a dental assistant for 20 years. But I did my training with the Air Force.
Oh, so you would kind of knock them out before they have dental surgery? No wonder you can handle it.
Yeah. I
No, I'm
worked
just
on
kidding.
them when they were awake, and I tell you what, kids are easier. Kids
Are they really?
easier. Yes,
Nice.
they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go figure that.
Yes, I've worked on ones with all the bars on their chest, nice little stars on their chest. I think he and I would be fine.
Okay.
I want to talk to him.
If you do go there, Vanessa, you will love the place. It's a
I'm
beautiful.
sure I
It is a
would.
beautiful house.
I'm sure I would.
I think you should go there for one of their English tea events, actually, and that way, and I could come with you, and then I could give you an impromptu tour of the house, and
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I don't think he wants. I wouldn't try to get him to leave, but he does need to talk.
yeah, he needs to talk to somebody.
So,
So
Rob, this is off the subject of the Belmont, but it does have to do with other things that you do. I mean, you have the Pets in the Afterlife book behind you on display. So, well, I guess it's a banner.
shameless.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to do that.
right?
You got to do that. This is from Donna Gorton. So, do you find it easier or the same to communicate with human spirits or animal?
I really find it easier to communicate with animals.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah, because they all have nice personalities. To be honest with you,
Yeah, true.
and all they want to do. Every animal that I've really communicated with has nothing but love from the other side, and forgiveness. Even if they were abused before by a previous pet, parent. Well, I don't call abusers parents. I call them owners.
Right.
But yeah, they have nothing but love. People, on the other hand, though, because they maintain their personalities, can be gruff, like the general, or they can be grumpy, like that man in the front of the Belmont, the front second floor. And sometimes they're hard to deal with, but it is what it is.
Right.
We're all different.
It's true. It's very true.
So, and then down on the chat, Katie Palmer's asking about the pup in the background on the book.
Oh, this is Buzz. Buzz is my puppy that passed away, and he has become the world's best canine communicator. So I wrote about how pets communicate from the other side. So if anybody lost a pet, you can read about how they communicate with you, and you don't need a medium.
There you go. So definitely pick up
Thanks
Pets
for
in the
watching
Afterlife.
it.
Yeah.
Thanks for
He's
the.
so precious. Was he a Weimaraner? Is that what?
He is.
Oh,
Yeah, he is.
he's
Um,
precious.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm writing Pets 3 actually right
Are you
now. That's
really?
one of
Wow.
yeah, that's one of the 4 books I'm writing, and this one's actually going to be focused on the grief, how to cope with grief. And a good friend of mine is a medical psychiatrist, and he's writing a chapter for me
Oh, nice.
about coping with grief. Yeah,
So you say you're working on 4 books. What are the 4 other than Pets 3?
I am. So I'm working on Ghosts and Spirits 2, and Ghosts of Ireland and Scotland on a medium's vacation, because I went there and I ran into a lot of ghosts there, like I did in England. Um, and one that I was inspired to write just 3 weeks ago, and I'm almost done with it, is I call it Kindred Spirits. It's about a spirit that I actually became like a best friend to. He's been around 14 years around me and my husband, because he was my husband's late partner.
Oh, okay.
So I always joke that there's 3 of us in this relationship.
That's funny.
That's actually really beautiful, though.
It is. And, once I publish it, I would love to come back and talk about it, because this guy has a great sense of humor. And he just pulled a really funny prank on me last week or 2 weeks ago when I decided to write the book about him.
What'd he do?
So, I'm not going to say.
Oh.
I'll tell you next time.
Okay, sure. Donna Gorton is also asking, speaking of animals, Rob, are you able to communicate with living animals as easily as animals who have crossed?
Only my living animals.
Okay.
Because I know their habits and their thoughts. So that's an animal communicator for everybody who's asking. I get that question a lot. Animal communicators communicate with living animals. Mediums communicate with animals who passed.
Have you been able to communicate with any animals tied into the Belmont?
There are none in the house. I'm sure that there are some horses around where the barn was or currently stands, but you haven't been out to the barn.
Okay. It would make sense, though.
Yeah, I think that typically, as we mentioned, Vanessa, that ghosts tend to hang out in places that they were familiar with in life, either where they died or that they're happy with or something like that. So I wouldn't expect to generally run into them like a horse in the middle of the ballroom. But
Stranger things have happened.
stranger things have happened, right?
I was going to ask you, since you're writing about Ireland and Scotland. Okay, you went to Edinburgh, correct?
I did.
Okay, so once you've been to the castle and you've done
Holyrood
all
Palace
that,
or Edinburgh Castle.
Edinburgh Castle.
Okay.
Which I had a very difficult time in what I called the war room. I couldn't take it. I actually had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
It was such sorrow, and I'll start crying if I think about it now. I have a soft spot for military people. I truly do, regardless of when it was. But after you went to the castle, and then you're going down that main street in Edinburgh, after the oh goodness, where Parliament is. After Parliament, on the right hand side before Starbucks, there's a little gift shop with a bunch of different candies in it, and different stuff. Did you go in there?
I did not.
Oh goodness, there's one that's just so prominent in there, and he throws candy at you.
Oh gosh, I missed it.
He throws it off the shelf in boxes.
Oh wow.
He just throws it at you. And not mean. He's just trying to get your attention. But yeah, he's just like, oh, you want candy? Here's your candy. And
I'll have to go back.
You need to. It's a hoot. It's before Starbucks on the right-hand side on that main street in Edinburgh.
Okay. I know that I had quite a few experiences in Holyrood Palace.
Oh, loved Holyrood Castle and the Abbey. Loved it. And yes, amazing experiences.
Yeah.
It's very different than what people would think.
Yes.
It's actually very humbling.
You guys make me jealous over here, you know.
I'm so sorry. Um, but it's a humbling experience. It really is, because what you think you know,
Hmm.
you don't know.
Hmm.
That, I mean, we're shown a certain way that people of royalty live, and then there's how they actually live,
True.
and it's very different. Puts it all into perspective. Would you agree, Rob?
I would, absolutely. Yep. It's amazing what you can learn from the dead.
Absolutely, and that's
Yeah.
what we should be doing anyway, right?
Right.
Absolutely. And we have a question in the chat back to the Belmont from Leslie Fear. Rob, in your opinion, how much of the hauntings at Belmont are residual, and how much are actual ghosts?
Um, I think there are five or six actual interactive, intelligent haunts, and uh, the rest of them are residual, like the horse and carriage that I mentioned earlier. That's a residual
Sure,
haunt.
sure.
It just happens running back and forth. Um, but we've actually been able to communicate and get answers from the others. So yeah, I think there are about five or six, I would say.
Let me ask you something to go with that question, because we always talk about that active and intelligent hauntings, excuse me, as opposed to residual. Do you think that if the residue is heavy enough, and that if it has spent enough time being what it is in a particular location, that if somebody came into said location and was able to connect to it, they might be able to connect to whomever left that energy? Or do you think that is a no go?
Oh, I think they could connect to the energy. Um, yeah, it's like a personal signature. I think if you're sensitive enough, you can tap into it. And if they've crossed over, they'll come back. They'll come back
Exactly.
and visit, just like our relatives do in spirit. So sure.
Exactly. I've always wondered that, because of the like the I believe it's in Germany, where people talk about the troops, that it's like, I mean, they know at a certain time of a certain day they're going to see these troops
Hmm.
coming, but nobody's ever tried to interact with them, and I'm like, why?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question.
Why not? You know?
That makes me think of some of the some of the times that I've gone to cemeteries, and I know that cemeteries really generally aren't haunted per se, but spirits will come back if you go to their gravesite.
Yep.
There's been many instances where like moms and dads of servicemen who have fallen have gone to the grave. And I remember distinctly one woman had reported that dragonflies swirled around her son's gravesite, and then she took a picture, and there was a shadow of a young man standing next to the grave. Um, so we can certainly draw them back. Um, um, I also remember when I was in Philadelphia walking through one of the old cemeteries, and I was curious about somebody that was buried in the far end, and sure enough, somebody wound up materializing. Well, half of them did, sitting on top of a tombstone, and I just said, okay, I wasn't that curious.
Careful what you ask for.
I know exactly. That's the bottom line right there.
That's really true.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we were getting
I never
down.
would have.
We were getting down
So
toward the end of the show. So, Rob, where can people find you?
Um, they can find me under their table every now and then. No, just kidding. They, they can find me online. I write a blog every
Mhm.
week. So robgutro.com or petspirits.com. Those are the shortcuts that get you there. They can find my books on Amazon, of course, and then on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. And you can just go to petspirits.com, and all that stuff is on the left hand side.
Okay. And again, if somebody's interested in the Belmont.
Uh, Howard County Parks and Recreation. Just put it in Google, Belmont Manor and Historic Park.
Okay, and they'll post everything that IGT has going on there.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a calendar. And if you want to know, I also have all of the events on my page too, because I'm usually always the speaker.
Go figure that.
Yeah, I'm cheap labor.
Right, exactly.
Hey, Rob, quick question, because they're asking both of us, since we've both been to Edinburgh. Let me find it on here. They're asking if we went inside the South Bridge vaults while in Edinburgh, and I did. Did you go?
Yeah, the underground vaults.
Yes.
Yes. Creepy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Very much so.
I went with my husband, and both he and I actually saw a shadow figure walk across a dimly lit corridor, and there was nobody there.
That was probably Mr. Boots.
That's right. Oh, I remember him.
Yeah, because he stood right next to me breathing whiskey. Really.
Oh, dear.
I love me some whiskey. I love it, okay? But I don't love it out of centuries old or hundreds of years old funky mouth in the vault of Edinburgh. It loses its luster in a big way. And he stayed with me most of the time, breathing that shit right in my face.
Oh, boy. They don't make Altoids for dead people.
No, they need to. Somebody needs to come up with that.
Yeah. Corner of the market, y'all. Come on now. You did coffee.
I did coffee. That's right.
Coffee for
On the road roast to help you hunt ghosts.
For living people.
Yeah.
And everybody needs to get Mike's coffee.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what we need to do is make a little breath spray that when one of them is around us and they're all halitosis-y, that's bitch be gone spray right there. Like that.
Yep. Cure your dead mouth.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy.
All right. That's a good one to end on. All right. Let's go ahead and we'll get to the shout outs and everything. So the next show, Inside the Upside Down, again, we're going to be doing that on Facebook. So that'll be facebook.com/Haunted Road Media. And we'll be going there directly after this show. Give us a few minutes to change things up. We'll be talking about the astral plane on that show. So, all right. So Super Chat Superstars for this episode of Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have Trucker David Y, Tom McNicholas, and BD Flint. Thank you all very, very much for that. Also, thank you to Shauna, our chat shenanigator, for handling things down there in the chat room. Appreciate that, my love. Also, our Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons, we have Tom McNicholas, B3 Aerospace, Zippy Davis, BD Flint, Joe Chandler, Pamela Queen, Dustin Samario, David Y. Did I forget anybody? Andrew Cox. Yep. I think that's all of them.
The list is getting longer.
The list is getting longer. I'm going to have to write it down. So, all right. So the shout outs real quick here. Go to our participants tab. So there's Andrew Cox right there. Betty Lange, thanks for joining us tonight. Brandy Starlooper, thank you for your questions. There's Charms Paranormal, thank you as always. Chipper Terry, thank you as always. Donna Gorton, our Cheshire cat in the house. She'll be handling cat duties there during Inside the Upside Down. Greg Renkin, thanks for joining us again tonight. Holly Pendlin, thanks for joining us. There's Joe Chandler. And Judy Wilson, thank you very much. Katie Palmer, thank you as well. Leslie Fear, thank you for your questions tonight. Madam Mayhem, thank you as well. Michelle Nugent, thanks for joining us. Nichelle Thompson, Robert Hanna, Tammy Heitzman, and Tom McNicholas. Thank you as always. I know Diane Hilbert is out there somewhere, even though she's not shown up here on the list, so I want to make sure that our Haunted Road Media Fairy Queen gets a shout out. There's Discord threads. Thank you very much. And Lenora Moreno, thank you as always. And thank you for all the retweets as well. I did see Chuck Banks in the house earlier. He had a new book come out today, Death the Saga with Haunted Road Media. So be sure to check that out. And there's Tim Schoen. Thank you as always. And Luli Tubi. We had a lot of people in the house tonight. So there's Sean Gilmore. We've seen Sean this weekend at House Reformatory. So, all right. I'm going to scroll up here a little bit and see if there's anybody else that we need to grab here before we sign off. Denise Pridemore. Can't forget Denise. And I think that's probably going to do it. If we missed you, I do apologize. it's a challenge because the list is not all inclusive, and then we have to rely on scrolling and eyes, and my eyes are not the best. So.
And somebody could be ghosting you.
Somebody could be ghosting, yeah. And we have lurkers out there. I know Adam Tillery's out there somewhere lurking. He'll throw the eyes up here at some point. Tim Schoen is saying, don't forget me. I'm pretty sure I got Tim Schoen, but yeah, I think we got everybody now. All right, everybody. Rob, again, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll definitely have to coordinate things for next year so you can come out to next year's Paracon. So we miss you, buddy. Awesome. We definitely miss you.
I'm going to miss you too. I love you guys. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Anytime. Take care, my friend.